What's good, what's going on everyone? Hope you're having a great day. It's Neff. Today we're going to be going through the Demon Hunter talent tree changes. They made a decent amount of changes. Most abilities stayed the same. They added a couple things, and then mainly they just moved a bunch of abilities around. Yeah, mainly they just changed the routing of a lot of stuff. If you watched my last video, they made a ton of changes. They basically answered my prayers, to be honest. You know, they made a ton of changes that I was really pushing for and hoping for. A lot of people that are playing Havoc are really happy with the changes that they made. And so far, Demon Hunter is looking really, really good. Even if it's not the strongest, it does look like a fun spec to play. And honestly, that's really what matters when it comes down to it. As long as the spec is fun, you know, tuning can be adjusted to, you know, actually make it viable and actually make it do damage. But if it's not fun, then what the hell is the point, you know? But first off, before we get started, I do want to shout out my Discord. There's a link in the description. We're at like 700 plus members. If that's something you're interested in, there's a link. It's where you can get my UI. I have a shadowed unit frames version of my UI and an LVUI version. Both work the same, they look the same, they act the same. Just depends on preference. I personally use shadowed unit frames now because of the FPS issues with LVUI. Uses a ton of resources, and in my opinion, it's not worth to use it. But I know people like it, so I keep my LVUI updated. If that's something you're interested in, it's available for Twitch subs. There's a link to my Twitch in the description. You can check that out. Also, if you're not subbed, make sure you hit that sub button. If you like this video, if you watch my past videos and like those, and you just haven't hit that sub button, it takes like 2 seconds. It's right there, and it really helps me grow, and I'd really appreciate it. Now that we got that out of the way, I already made a video going through pretty much every talent on the tree, so I'm not going to do that. We're basically just going to go through the changes of the tree, and I'll give you my thoughts and what other changes they should make to improve on it, which they already have. Compared to the first tree looked really good already. With the changes they made, it's easily one of the best trees that they've come out with so far. So first, we're just going to go through the class tree. I'm going to quickly make the build that I would use, but I'm not going to go over my build. You know, this build is not set in stone. Tuning can change tomorrow or the next day or in 5 minutes, you know. So these builds that we come up with right now, they're not going to mean a whole lot. I'm just kind of going through, making the build so everything's highlighted and we can actually see, you know, everything that's on the tree. Just give you an idea of what we might use, and then we could expand on that and then make the changes based on the build that we currently think would be decent. All right, so I got the build done. I went more for utility, like big utility rather than, you know, snares like Master of the Glaive and Vengeful Restraint. Went more for Sigil of Silence and Sigil of Misery and increased health. So now that we got the build done, we'll go through row by row and look at, you know, what changes they actually made. So first off, on the first row, you see they added hot feet here. I believe this was Master of the Glaive, which in my video, you know, like I said, this should have been a thing from the beginning. I'm really glad they made this change. They made Master of the Glaive, you know, one talent. Throw-Glaive has 2 charges and snares all enemies hit by 50% for 6 seconds. This was to be 2 different nodes to separate these 2 things. To put 2 points into Master of the Glaive just felt really, really bad. So I'm really happy they made that change. And so Hot Feet's up here now. Taking this, you gain an additional charge of Infernal Strike as Vengeance or Fell Rush as Havoc. This was on the Spec tree for Havoc, and it just felt really dumb to have it on the Spec tree because Vengeance would have only had 1 Infernal Strike, unless I guess they could have put it on the Vengeance Spec tree too, but it makes a lot more sense to have it on the class tree. So that was over here where this Throw-Glaive talent. So they moved it onto the class tree. Really, really good change. So the second row, they changed Bouncing Glaive and Imprison for whatever reason. I guess it kind of makes sense so you don't have to take Bouncing Glaives, because in some builds, say you don't take Master of the Glaive or you don't take, you know, Fell Bombardment or anything, there's going to be scenarios where you don't ever want to press Throw-Glaive. It would just be, you know, a waste of a GCD really. So really good to see that, you know, they moved Imprison above this so you don't have to take Bouncing Glaives. So that's a really good change. I think that's it on this row. They made no changes to the third row besides the Imprison and Bouncing Glaive swap. And then on the fourth row, they turned Aura of Pain into a choice node with Fellblade. Not sure how I feel about this. I feel like as Havoc, it feels really bad to lose Fellblade. I mean, 40 Fury is a decent amount, especially on a 15-second CD. And, you know, getting the resets from Fellblade is just, you know, a nice RNG. Fury gain, which is really nice, but Fellblade doesn't really do any damage, but it is a nice source of Fury, so it does kind of feel awkward. I think it used to be under the Rush of Chaos here. It was like its own node that Rush of Chaos went down into Fellblade. But then again, I think we're gonna have a ton of buttons, depending on which build you play as Demon Hunter or Havoc. So maybe Fellblade is not a very good option. Maybe just the Aura of Pain is just better, and taking Fellblade is not good because we have so many different buttons to press now. But I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about this choice node here. I don't feel good about it, but I don't feel bad about it either. Charred Word Blade's still in the same spot. On the 5th row, again, the Master of the Glaive change, really good change. If you need a snare, if you want 2 charges on your throw glaive, really nice to have. Really, decent utility. And to make this a 1-point node makes it feel way better. I think that was the only change on this row. You can see I took Lost in Darkness, but I took it just to get the Will of the Illidari. So look at the next row. Again, the only change on this row was the Fellblade change. They moved Fellblade from around here up to the Aura of Pain choice node, which again, I don't know how I feel about that, because they do 2 different things. Aura of Pain is a passive to our Immolation Aura, and Fellblade is just a Fury generator. And this is just, a crit chance increase. Really doesn't make a lot of sense to have this as a choice node. Yeah, it is what it is. I feel like this should be changed. So that was the only change to the 6th row. Looking at the 7th row, they moved Sigil of Misery and Sigil of Silence. They swapped those around. I guess they want to make it harder to get to Sigil of Silence because it's really, really strong utility, and to easily get it, I can see why it would be kind of busted to have it here. So I kind of agree with this change. This change does suck, but I think I understand why they did it. So that was the only change there. Moving on to the 8th row, again, the Sigil of Silence and Sigil of Misery swap, and it was on the 9th row, now they moved it to the 8th row. And they added a new talent called Aldraki Design, which it increases your parry chance by 3%, which isn't terrible. I think our parry scales with crit, so looking at Havoc, we are going to be scaling with crit as Havoc. Maybe parry might be a good option for Vengeance going into Dragonflight, so maybe, crit might be good for both Vengeance and Havoc. Yeah, I'm not sure how much we parry on live, but 3%. It's not a crazy amount, but it is something. I think I'm okay with this talent. I don't think it's terrible. It might be kind of bad. I'm not sure. I'm not a Vengeance expert, so I don't know how I feel about this. I don't have too much to say about it. Moving on to the 9th row, they ended up moving Demonic Appetite from the Clash tree over to the Spec tree. So I guess Vengeance isn't going to have Demonic Appetite anymore. But Erratic Fellheart, I do kind of like this. It makes us way more mobile. So I guess that's a good change. Just more utility, really. More mobility. So this choice node here stayed the same. The hunt stayed the same. They did move the improved Sigil of Misery and Misery and Defeat. They also changed Misery and Defeat. If you watch my last video, I was talking about Misery and Defeat. They should have made it a dot, which they did now. So enemies take 10% increased damage from all sources for 5 seconds after Sigil of Misery's effect on the mins. At first, this would only affect them if they were currently feared by Sigil of Misery. So this is a really good change. It's actually a damage increase if you want to take this. I'm not sure how good it's going to be because it's only 10% for 5 seconds on a 2-minute cooldown. Definitely a really good change on the Misery and Defeat. Having it just when they were feared, it was really a dead talent, and there was really no use for it at all. So really, really good change there. Extended Sigil stayed the same. Desperate Instincts, again, this talent needs to be deleted. They need to get rid of this. There's really no reason you should ever take this. PvP, you definitely wouldn't want it. In Raid, you definitely wouldn't want it. In Mythic Plus might be the only situation where you might want it. On a high key, you definitely would not want to take this. I don't see any scenario where you would take this. It just not a very good talent. Maybe if they just made this like its own DR, when you drop below 35% health, it would be something like Will of the Necropolis, currently on Blood DK, which would be really nice. But my suggestion in my last video was they should change this to Darkest Hour. It's the legendary currently on live. When you drop below 35% health, you drop Darkness, and you could have it at a reduced duration. You could have a 2-minute ICD on it, which I think currently it does on the legendary. It's like a 2-minute ICD. So I think that would be a really good alternative. You know, you could even make it a choice node. I know capstone choice nodes aren't really a thing. I guess we have one here. But if people want to take this, let them take it. But I don't see any scenario where a decent player would ever take this. Either make it a choice node or just delete Desperate Instincts, in my opinion. The rest of the class tree stayed the same. But again, they should change Fey Empowered Elixir. Currently it's just based on the duration of the dot from the hunt, which is only 6 seconds. So I think they should make the duration 12 seconds long and then cut the CDR in half that you get from it. So you're basically just swapping, you know, the time and the CDR. I think it would make it way more viable, and on lower keys it would be really fun to use. Yeah, that's all the changes they made to the class tree. I wish they would make these two nodes one node, putting a whole talent point into getting Fury from an interrupt or getting Fury from Consume Magic, which you hardly ever consume magic anything. It's very rare that you ever do this. I think this should definitely be removed. Maybe remove this Consume Magic Fury generation and put Fellblade there. Just put it off to the side. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Maybe you could swap the two. Put Disrupt to the right and Consume Magic to the left, then put Fellblade over here and the Disrupt on the right side. I think that would make more sense. Alright, so next we're going to be looking at the Havoc Spec tree. Again, I'm going to make the build. Build's not set in stone. A lot of tuning's going to happen, you know. All of these builds are going to be subject to change, just based on around tuning and testing and everything like that. So don't pay too much attention to the build. I'm really just making the build so we can see what all is on the tree. So the build's done. I do just want to say, you know, a lot of stuff on the spec side of the tree feels like it's really random at the moment. It definitely needs some more routing adjustments. Some of it just seems really random. They don't know where to put any of this stuff, but I think that might be a good thing, because honestly, there's so many good options that you know, synergize pretty well with each other. It's kind of hard to, you know, put a perfect spot for it on the tree. But again, you know, it is an issue. There's stuff that is just randomly placed in, you know, spots that, you know, probably shouldn't be. So hopefully we'll see some more routing changes going forward. So right away, a pretty big change. Improved Chaos was moved to the second row. It was a row below where Improved Fell Rush is now. So this is a really good change. Trail of Ruin used to be where Improved Chaos Strike is now, and Improved Chaos Strike was locked behind Trail of Ruin, which kind of made zero sense. You know, your single target Chaos Strike damage being locked behind an AoE ability doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So a really good change. Dancing with Fate was here, right below I-Beam in the middle. They changed that and put that to where Improved Fell Rush was. So Improved Fell Rush was where Dancing with Fate is now, and Dancing with Fate was below I-Beam. And then they moved Demon Blades all the way from the fourth row on the right side straight below I-Beam. So the choice node here, Demon Blade and Insatiable Hunger, is right below I-Beam. I think it's a really good change. I really like this. This is a basic starting talent, I believe, just like how it is in retail. You know, I think it's the second row of talents on retail where you can choose between Insatiable Hunger and Demon Blades, which it's a really good stepping stone. It's a really good starting talent, you know, to go forward with your build. So I really like this being placed here. Moarg Bionics. This used to be Hot Feet, but Hot Feet got moved to the class tree. Really good change. Throglaive deals 25% increased damage for each enemy hit. Not sure how this gets calculated. I'm assuming each time it bounces, it does 25% more, 25% more, and then 25% more. So eventually the last target it hits, it'll do like 75% more damage or 100%. I forget how many targets it actually hits, but it's either 3 or 4. I wish they would add it to, like, if it doesn't bounce to anything, it would just, you know, ricochet to the same target and, you know, just kind of hit one target 4 times or 3 times, however many times it is. And then it would increase in damage every time it hit that one target. So it would make it viable for AoE and single target. But it seems like this whole right side, they're trying to make more AoE, which is, this being here is kind of weird, but we'll get to that in a second. So we'll look at the third row. Demonic Appetite was on the class tree, now on the spec tree. I think this used to be Tactical Retreat, which it got moved down by Momentum, which is a really good change. We'll get to that later. Improved Fell Rush. This used to be under Hot Feet, which was right here. It used to be where Dancing with Fate is. Kind of a weird talent. If it multiplies off of Unbound Chaos, then I think it would be really good. If it multiplies your base damage on Fell Rush and then Unbound Chaos will multiply off of that. Multiplied Fel Rush from Improved Fel Rush then could be decent, but I think at the moment there's just better options. First Blood's still in the same spot. Dancing with Fate, we already went over this. This used to be right under I-Beam, and now it's here. I'm okay with that. Makes sense. It's more AoE oriented, so it's on the right side of the tree. Burning Hatred still in the same spot. Full Chaos still in the same spot. Mortal Dance still the same. Felfire Heart still the same. On the 5th row, they made one change to the 5th row. They moved Trail of Ruin from the top left up here on the 2nd row, moved it down to the 5th row on the right side where, you know, all of our AoE talents are, or some AoE talents are. So I think it's a really good change. The rest of the row still the same. Moving on to the 6th row, a couple changes here. Unbound Chaos used to be on the right side where Relentless Onslaught is, which makes more sense because Unbound Chaos does synergize with Momentum, just based off, you know, Momentum proccing when you use Unbound Chaos. So it makes a lot of sense for it to be on the left side with Momentum, or anywhere near Momentum instead of on the opposite side. So really happy with that change. Blind Fury used to be on the right side here. Not sure why they made this change, to be honest. I guess this is really a talent where it can be good in single target or AoE. It's not really defined, so it's kind of weird where you would really want to place this, but I think it being here is fine. And then here is where it gets really, really weird. Relentless Onslaught being under Trail of Ruin and, you know, by these other AoE talents. This makes zero sense. I feel like this should just be swapped with Serrated Glaives maybe. Move on to the next row. Momentum was changed from being a capstone, and it was swapped with Essence Break. Essence Break got really buffed, and we'll look at that here in a second. So Momentum, really good change. I think it being by Unbound Chaos and Tactical Retreat makes way more sense. Not sure how I feel about Essence Break being a capstone over Momentum, but Essence Break did get a really big buff. So they also got rid of Glide being on Momentum, so Glide does not proc Momentum anymore. And I think they're going to be adding the stack back to Momentum, because with Glide you couldn't have it stacked because you could just keep using Glide over and over again and stack it up, you know, infinitely. So hopefully Momentum will be able to stack again, since, you know, it doesn't proc off Glide anymore. Isolated Prey was moved. It was where Tactical Retreat is currently, and obviously Tactical Retreat got swapped from being in the top left here. So Isolated Prey is here now. Again, I think they're trying to make this left side more single target, so it does make sense for it to be on the left side here. I feel like this is a pretty good position for this talent. You know, we can easily work our way around it without being forced into taking it in, you know, an AoE situation, because, you know, really this is only good in single target or PvP. So I think this is decent placement. You know, we can easily work around it. Restless Hunter and Inner Demon still the same. While I'm here, I do want to talk about this talent here, Chaotic Transformation. This should be deleted. I don't want to have to take this. Please get rid of this. Please get rid of this, or please just let me go left to right here, and let me go Growing Inferno to Inner Demon and Cast Theory to Restless Hunter. I don't know why this is here. I don't know why this is a thing. I think this should not be a thing at all. This should be deleted from existence, and no one should ever talk about this ever again. So yeah, that's how I feel about this talent. Fel Bombardment has really good potential to do some decent damage. Just tuning, based on tuning, how much damage our Throw Glaive will actually do. This talent up here now, it might be really good, because when you do throw out your Fel Bombardment, you throw out a bunch of glaives, and I think it could make for some crazy, you know, wacko, some really wacky gameplay, and honestly probably some really good burst. But yeah, no changes to that. Glaive Tempest and Fel Barrage got moved down one node. I forgot to even talk about Burning Wound. Burning Wound used to be down here at the bottom left, but now it's, you know, above Glaive Tempest for whatever reason. I feel like this is more of a single target talent as well. It's kind of weird to use it in AoE, but I guess if we're using Demon Blades is guaranteed to proc now, so it'll be really easy to spread the Burning Wound rather than the 60% chance to spread it. It might be better in AoE. It does buff the hell out of your Growing Inferno, or your Immolation Aura, so that being with Ragefire would probably be really good. Yeah, I don't really like this positioning though. I feel like this should be swapped with Fel Bombardment, then maybe swap Serrated Glaive with Relentless Onslaught. But then we're locked into taking Fel Bombardment for Glaive Tempest and Fel Barrage, which also feels really, really weird. Anyways, move on to the next row. Know Your Enemy got moved. Cycle of Hatred used to be here, now it's down in the middle. It used to be where Isolated Prey is. This is going to be a really, really strong talent. Pretty much infinite crit scaling. This is going to be really, really good. So I can see it being one before Capstone. And then Ragefire, for whatever reason, Ragefire is over here, even though the Immolation Aura buffs are on this side. So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It used to be over here where Glaive Tempest was. Then they moved Burning Wound over here, where Ragefire is now. This is where Burning Wound used to be. Yeah, I'm not sure why this is here. There's just a couple talents that are just in really random spots that don't make a lot of sense. But yeah, Cycle of Hatred moved one before Capstone. They did change Cycle of Hatred again. They made Blade Dance, Chaos Strike, and Glaive Tempest reduce the cooldown of I-Beam by 1 second, which is a really good change. Blade Dance being on Cycle of Hatred, you guys, I've been talking about this for so long that this should have been a thing. Pressing Blade Dance while running Cycle of Hatred on live with the Venthyr build, it just feels like shit. You get punished for pressing an AoE ability in AoE. Yeah, it just feels like shit spending Fury on something like that currently. Putting Blade Dance on here, really, really good change. Not sure how I feel about the Glaive Tempest, because to get to Glaive Tempest, you have to, you know, do a lot just to get there. And then taking all of this stuff over here, you know, you lose a lot of value from your demonic form. So kind of weird that they would put Glaive Tempest on there. I'm not sure how I feel about that. They can do what I suggested and move Glaive Tempest to a more reachable node on the tree. Because right now, it's just locked behind Relentless Onslaught and Burning Moon. It's just really tough to get to it. Especially with Cycle of Hatred being in the middle of the tree, going all the way out there to get Glaive Tempest for the CDR on Cycle of Hatred. It's just really, really weird. So this is still the same. Soul Rend, still the same. Essence Break made it into a Capstone. It did get really buffed. It does way more damage now. I think it used to be a 25-second cooldown. Now it's a 40-second cooldown. But it does like quadruple the amount of damage. They buffed the 40% damage to a 100% damage increase for 4 seconds. I think it used to be 8 seconds, so they cut that in half. They like doubled the cooldown, but they increased the damage, the initial damage it does, by like, you know, quadruple. So not sure how I feel about that. This is definitely just going to be a tuning thing to where you know, how much our other abilities actually do when this buff is actually active in that 4-second time period. But I feel like this is going to do a lot of damage in itself. Yeah, I think this is a cool idea. I like this change. Shattered Destiny is the same. Any Means Necessary is the same. And those are all the changes to the trees. Overall, I'd say they're really good. Again, just like before, there's just a lot of good things to choose from. I feel like that's where what our issue is, and it's a really good issue to have, I guess. Yeah, but with that comes routing issues and some stuff just being placed really randomly where it doesn't belong at all. What you're looking at now is a picture of the tree I would personally have if I had it my way. These are all the changes that I would make. You know, everything underlined in red has been changed. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what changes you'd like to see. You know, so far we're looking pretty strong. You know, my hopes are high. You know, like I said, you know, we have so much good stuff to choose from on our tree. That's kind of became a problem, but it's a good problem to have. So hopefully, you know, Reels and the devs will figure this all out, and you know, they'll come up with some good routing, some good positioning things for all the different nodes that need to be changed. Yeah, I'm really hopeful for Havoc going forward in the Dragonflight. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you want to join my Discord, let me know there. If you have any questions, anything Demon Hunter related, be sure to join my Discord, and you know, I'll try to answer them there. If you want to see a Vengeance video, I might make a Vengeance video. You know, I've done some like 24s and 25 keys as Vengeance. I'm not a crazy Vengeance expert, but I will do the best that I can if you want to see that. So just let me know. Make sure you hit the sub button if you're not subbed. Hit the bell to get notified whenever I upload a video. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time. Peace.